There is a certain lady named Chidinma, popularly called Uma. She is a very beautiful woman and married to a very handsome, intelligent man named Steve. Steve and Uma's love is one to be envied. They are both from well-to-do families who love and support them always. Uma is a renowned businesswoman who owns a boutique where she sells beautiful clothing and apparel. She had been running her business before she got married to her husband. They are recently married but had dated for a while. Steve worked in an establishment where things are being developed, and his wife, Uma, had always felt her husband was being exploited because he has contributed so much to the organization with little or nothing to show for himself. Uma had always told him that he could start his own company by himself, as she could help him with the little knowledge she had of business, but he felt it was much more complicated than that and wasn't ready to give it a try. Uma is a fun person in the relationship, more open and outspoken. Unlike Steve, who is more of an introvert, he keeps to himself and doesn't have many friends. He has a strict routine: go to work, come home, and the cycle continues. He doesn't like socializing. Uma is the one who forces him to go out of his comfort zone to do more fun stuff. They were so happy together, and you could easily tell. Steve has two friends, Kola and David. They all worked in the same organization, but in different departments. Kola was a marketer, very good at getting someone to buy their latest invention, while David worked in the accounting section, handling the financial matter. Uma had so many friends that it was hard to keep up with them all. She was jovial and friendly to everyone who knew her. Since Steve got married, his friends usually visited him during the weekends, and they would have nice conversations about the way forward and financial growth. David would talk about how they could make extra income, as the money they had made from their current jobs wasn't enough to live comfortably. Kola agreed with David, and he talked to Steve about working on the formula for a particular drug. Most clients he had been meeting were super interested in that drug, and they were willing to pay millions for the formula. Steve said, "You know, if I get caught, I could lose my job." David and Kola laughed, saying, "Guy, you're so scared. And you can't make money if you're scared. Besides, who will rat you out? I mean, this is between the three of us. Come on, you need to make enough money to spoil your woman." Steve asked, what if they could find out? Because definitely they would. He said, "To hell with them. The money will be paid will be enough to start a company for you." This decision did not sit well with Steve, but he kept it to himself. That night he was troubled, and his wife noticed. She asked him what the matter was, and he pretended to be alright. She came close to him saying, "Steve, you know I know when you're happy and when you're sad, and definitely something is bothering you. Why not share it with me?" It took a minute, and then he told her the conversations that ensued with his friends. She smiled and said, "I agree with them. You know you're too smart. Just ensure you get the bigger share of the cut, because most people are after their own selfish gain." Steve said he would think about it. Steve thought it over and decided to go ahead with the plan. He informed Kola and David about his decision, and they were happy he was on board. So secretly, Steve was experimenting and looking for a cure while doing his own job and keeping it under the radar. Soon it became obvious he was a bit distracted from work, but people usually waved it off. Steve did not have time for anyone anymore, as he was so invested in getting the formula for the drug. Kola told him to hurry up so they could land the deal, and David echoed the same, as they all had plans for how to use the money. Steve told them that it wouldn't take long to secure the formula. Then one day, Steve cracked it and got the formula. He told his wife, and she was super happy for him. She asked her husband how they would share the money. He told her that they hadn't really talked about that. She told him, "Shouldn't tell them that you cracked the formula yet. First, reach an agreement. After you know how much you'll be paid for it." He was so excited and wanted to tell them, but his wife advised against it, urging him to wait and see. Steve met up with the guys, and after a brief discussion, he stated that he hadn't decided on the sharing ratio. Kola said it wouldn't be a problem. Let him have the formula ready first. Steve insisted that he wanted to know how much he would be paid. David suggested an equal sharing ratio, which Steve rejected immediately. He said he practically did the job and it couldn't be shared equally. Kola asked Steve if the formula was ready and Steve kept quiet. He said when they arrange how the profit will be shared, then he can speak. Kola said, okay, you get 60%, and both David and I will get 20% each, given that you practically did all the work. David disagreed, saying he would have to cover all the legal fees and costs attached to the transfer, and that he also had work to do. Kola told him to relax, saying, this is an extra job, no money will come. David wasn't happy, but Kola kept up a smile and asked Steve if the formula was ready. Steve replied saying yes, and they all celebrated. Steve told Kola to give him time to explain the formula in a booklet so they could easily understand each step. Kola said he would contact the buyer and set a date so they could all present during the sale. They all went home super happy and ready to seal the deal. Steve went home and told his wife about what was discussed. She told her husband to be very careful, saying her mind wasn't settled about all of this. Steve asked what she meant, and she said she would explain later. Steve had been restless about the whole situation and wanted to be careful around his friends because he could sense desperation. They decided to meet up with his friends again to make sure that it wasn't just the money they all cared about, but also their friendship. After Steve set up the meeting, they met, and the first thing they asked was, where's the formula? The buyer is already on my neck. Steve asked them to relax and drink first. Kola replied, the earlier we do this, the better, so no one will suspect. David agreed with him, adding that if Steve needed help, they could send someone to assist him. Steve said that wouldn't be necessary. He told them he was still working on the formula and that it wasn't ready. They returned to him saying, you're definitely joking, right? What do you mean by that? Kola responded saying, you know Steve likes joking. This must be one of his tricks. Steve said no. I just wanted to know ahead of time what the sharing ratio would be when you all asked if it was ready. I accepted so we could reach an agreement that day. David stood up and said, why would you lie like that? Do you know what I have done with the hopes I will get the money before the month's end? I'm currently owing people and I have made an advance payment for a car. Why would you lie to us? Or are you planning to cut us out of the deal? You could see the anger blazing in David's eyes, and Steve was shocked. Kola asked David to calm down and then asked Steve, what's the matter? If you found a buyer and want to run this thing on your own, it's that simple. But why would you do such a thing to us? Steve said he didn't mean to make them think it was ready. He only wanted to know his share once the formula was done. David was too angry and walked out saying, if I find out you're lying, you see the other side of me. Kola was she trying to calm David down when he walked out. Steve asked, why is David acting that way? Is the money more important than our friendship? Kola told him that what he did was absolutely wrong, but urged him to finish the formula quickly so they could get their money. Kola also got up saying he had somewhere to be, leaving Steve alone. Steve sat down wondering what had just happened. Did his friends leave him because of money? Because of a formula? He was deeply shocked. He left the bar and went home. Sitting on the couch, still lost in thought, Mama tapped on his shoulder, bringing him back to reality. She asked him what the matter was, noticing he was moody. He narrated what happened at the bar with his friends, explained that he was surprised by their reaction. She said, well, I tried to warn you. Not everyone close to you wants what's best for you. She advised him to tell them the formula was ready and finish the deal. Afterward, he should part ways with them so it wouldn't jeopardize his current job, allowing him to establish his own business and stay away from his friends. Steve gave her idea some thought and found her words reasonable. He said, okay, I'll get it done by the end of this month, and both of them retired to bed. By morning, they got dressed and left for work after saying their goodbyes. On his way to work, Steve had already made up his mind to meet up with the guys and to inform them that the formula was ready. When he stepped into his office, however, he noticed the place was a mess, as if someone had been searching for something. He immediately called his secretary, and she said she had noticed the place in that condition and wanted him to see it for himself before she cleaned up. She also mentioned that the HR department had sent for him. Steve asked her to put his office in order so he could return and start his day's work. When he went to the HR's office, They asked him why his office was in such disarray. Steve replied that he had come to ask them the same thing and inquire who have messed up his office like that. The HR manager handed him a letter and asked him to take a look at it. Steve was shocked when he saw it was a dismissal letter. He asked, "How come? What have I done?" The HR manager said he couldn't provide all the details, but advised him as a colleague, watch the kind of friends you keep. One of them accused you of doing outside work. I'm guessing the boss had someone come check your office for evidence of any sort. The manager added that he couldn't disclose who ratted him out, but wished Steve well in his new venture. Steve left the office in shock, learning who could have betrayed him, David or Kola. Steve decided to call them both to have a serious talk and try to straighten things out. He stayed at home until evening, when Uma returned and found him sitting on the couch. She rushed to his side, asking what was wrong, and Steve showed her the letter. She was confused and asked, "How can they just dismiss you like that?" Steve explained, "The HR manager told me in confidence that one of my friends ratted me out, accusing me of working on an outside job." Uma was utterly surprised and asked whom he thought would do such a thing. Steve wasn't sure, but he mentioned that David's threat from the last conversation was still fresh in his mind. Steve said he would contact both of them so they would meet up and figure out what was going on and who betrayed him. Steve called both of them, but only Kola answered. He left a message for David. Steve went to a bar, and shortly after, Kola walked in. After exchanging pleasantries, Steve asked Kola if he had spoken to David, mentioning that he tried calling him but got no answer. Kola said, "Well, I've spoken with David and he's taking this personal. Maybe that's why he doesn't want to speak to you." Steve, frustrated, asked, "But what did I do that will make him report me? Now I've lost my job over a misunderstanding. I can't believe he would do such a thing to me." Kola tried to calm Steve down and then said, "What you did was absolutely wrong, but finish up with the formula quickly and I'll help sell it. Since it's just the two of us now, we can split David's share between ourselves, 70-30, since you lost your job." Steve, still heartbroken, asked if the buyer was ready. Kola smiled and said, "Now you're talking. I'll set up a meeting with the buyer, and by weekend we'll have a reason to celebrate, okay?" Steve agreed and got up, telling Kola he would be in touch and that he had to leave. Steve went home and told Uma that David had ratted him out. Uma couldn't believe her ears and asked, "Are you sure?" Steve replied, "That's what Kola told me." Uma advised him to be very careful with his friends and not to trust anyone too easily. "Until you hear David openly admit to it, don't be too quick to believe it," she said. She then asked, "Who is going to handle the accounting?" Steve explained that Kola said he would find someone. Uma immediately disagreed, saying, "No, you have to be smart about this. Don't be too trusting, especially with money. I'll give you an accountant who will ensure a smooth transition." Steve liked her idea and agreed. She assured him that everything would be alright and told him not to stress. Steve called Kola, telling him not to worry about finding an accountant because his wife had arranged one for them. Kola didn't sound too happy about it, but agreed nonetheless. A few days later, Steve was heading out to run some errands when his wife gave him a call saying she suspected someone was following her. Steve asked her who she thought it was, but she couldn't provide an answer. That day, Uma had an exhibition at a school where she showcased her clothing design and was also supposed to model them for the students. As she scanned the crowd, she recognized someone and decided to get closer. However, just as she was about to approach, she overheard him having a serious conversation with another man. Curiosity pricked, she decided to listen carefully. The man said, "I'll get the formula from him and he won't get a dime. I'll make sure to eliminate him so he doesn't tarnish my image." Uma was horrified. Had she just heard that correctly? She decided to leave immediately before anyone noticed her. She told her workers that she had an emergency and would see them later. Uma quickly left the school and started walking down the alley, only to realize someone was following her. She called Steve again, but this time she put her phone in her pocket so she could concentrate on escaping. She moved from street to street, trying to avoid the person tailing her. but it wasn't working. Just when she thought she had finally gotten away, the man caught up to her and dragged her to a lonely, abandoned warehouse. When the mask was removed, Uma was shocked to see it was Kola. "What have I done to deserve this?" she asked. "Why have you tied me up?" Kola told her to keep quiet. "You think I don't know you're the one spoiling my plan with all the advice you've been giving Steve?" "But I haven't done anything wrong," she replied. Kola laughed maliciously and said, "You think I didn't see you? I heard your footsteps when you were leaving. That's why I followed you. I know you heard what I said." Uma denied it, but Kola, his eyes filled with anger, slapped her hard. "I'm going to use you as a leverage to get the formula from Steve," he sneered. "And once I have it, I'll get rid of you." Uma, trying to remain calm, said, "You'll never get away with this. Of course, Steve will know it was you." Kola smirked. "How would he know? I fooled him into thinking David was the one who got him fired. Meanwhile, I routed both of them out to get them fired. David thinks he's the one who got him sacked and that your husband is responsible. But I told David that Steve had sold the formula and cashed out alone while playing the victim. You see, I never wanted to hurt Steve. I even lied to him about the money. I told him we were getting 50 million naira, but the real amount is 100 million. I wanted to split it and go our separate ways, but along the line, I decided I wanted the whole amount for myself. Your husband is too smart though. He'll come up with another formula in the future and make more money. So I couldn't risk it. But then, you had to bring in an accountant that ruined everything." And I was stunned as Kola continued. "Getting David out was a bit difficult, but now you've messed up my plans. I wanted to take out your husband, but I've changed my mind. We'll take his place, since you're the chief advisor. Who caused all of this? Now say cheese." "That's all I need." He took photos of her tied up. "Well, time to say your goodbyes." Kola laughed, holding a stick ready to strike. Just as he was about to hit her, the police stormed in, shouting, "Freeze or we'll shoot you." Kola was taken aback, unable to comprehend how they had found him. It turned out that Steve had tracked Uma's location through the tracker they had both installed on each other's phones for emergencies. Uma had never caught the call, and Steve had heard everything Kola had said. He had rushed to the nearest police station, and they quickly came to her rescue. Steve looked at Kola in disbelief. "I can't believe you wanted to hurt me because of a formula and money. And here I was thinking David was the one who betrayed me." Kola was arrested, and Steve took Uma to the hospital as she was part from the ordeal. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed that Uma was pregnant, and fortunately, their baby was unharmed. Steve and Uma were overjoyed by the news. Afterwards, Steve and David reconciled. Together, they were able to set up their own establishment, selling the formula for 150 million naira. Their former organizations tried to reach out to them, but they ignored the attempt, remembering how the company hadn't supported them when they were fired. They built a strong, successful company, and with Uma by Steve's side, everything went well for them. This story is centered around betrayal and the hurt. Learn to always listen to your partner's advice, because sometimes it might help you. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please do not forget to show me love, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Please click on the subscribe button to support us. Turn on the post notification to get notified when I upload a new story. Like, share, and comment your thoughts. Till then, bye.